Today we're going to talk about tickets and the traditional way of sort of setting things like SLAs. And I know we've grown into things like XLAs and a lot of other things, and some of the metrics on the front end to prioritize tickets. And then some of the metrics you use on the back end to complement those and sort of see, what we're doing, how we're doing it, leads us to things like problem management, other change management, other big things, and so on, right? So we all understand, the value of tickets, what that data means, how juicy it is, and so on. What I'm going to present to you guys today is something I've been doing for a few years now. I've done it at, I guess I'd say five different companies now, about five different companies over the past about 10 to 12 years. And it's sort of evolved over time. But I'm going to share with you a different approach on how we prioritize tickets, how we designed our services, if you will. And there's a lot about service design. And again, you could sort of liken it to SLAs, but you'll see where it diverges and where it breaks. And then some of the metrics we use to track and manage the tickets we have, and then how we're doing. And, me being a basketball coach, gamification is something I'm really into. So we created a lot of stuff around gamification and how all that works and setting up our dashboards and then communicating with all of our people that we support as well. We utilize the same structure. We wanted to be transparent. So priorities, get them right. That's kind of, important to all of us. Obviously, your business, your firm, companies want us to be working on, the things that matter most, right? So the agenda we'll go through again. I guess I just kind of talked through this. Traditional measures. One of my favorite quotes, how we started all of this idea, is an email issue isn't an email issue, is it an email issue? The service scope and understanding what our services are as we provide them. What we call hit scores, and this is where it gets a little complex. But I think once you see it, it's actually much more simple, but it's hard to do it first. It's hard to build, but once the machine's running, I think you guys will see it. And then how the incentives come into this and play, and it's a natural fit into how we've designed everything. So obviously, there's a lot of SLAs. These are all everybody's favorite metrics, right? Or favorite things to build and measure, right? So we have our SLAs, XLAs, which are, I would say much better to SLAs, but still suffer from building things in a vacuum. And we'll talk about that. First call resolution is one everybody loves. Customer satisfaction, cost per ticket, these things. Everybody loves them. Everybody puts them in. I will tell you, I measure zero of all of these, and almost deliberately. And one of the biggest things that I find, and again, this is around prioritization and understanding what to do, which is sort of how SLAs may inform how you guys run your service desk. SLAs are often built in a vacuum. We build a brand new service. Let's say we've got a brand new application. Let's call it a warehouse management system that helps your warehouse workers drive around, pick stuff, route the goods to the shipping dock, and so on. Sophisticated, wonderful application. What happens, as project managers, product managers, support operations, deliver these services? We start to think about SLAs, like, well, what's the uptime? How fast do we need to resolve this? How fast do we need to do that? And all these things. And these are all great questions, but you just thought of it in a vacuum. Did you compare that same application to the ERP when it competes, when two tickets come in at the same time? Did you compare that to the CEO's email? Did you compare that to, whatever, right? And so what happens is we build these SLAs very often around services themselves and don't stack rank them against other services. We don't take a holistic approach. So what we have done is sort of build something new, and it's not really an SLA like, hey, we have to do this in a certain amount of time, because the truth is they're somewhat arbitrary. Oh, I'm so sorry. They're somewhat arbitrary. And, I'll give you guys an example. If there's an SLA to, let's say, fix our warehouse management system and, respond in 15 minutes, fix it in 30 minutes. And I'm just going to make up something that I've seen quite often. If a ticket comes in and the warehouse management system is down, or we're not able to, get our products on the truck, and let's say, it's 3 o'clock and We know that the trucks leave at 3:30. If we run into this problem and I know I have a 15-minute, response time, I'm not going to see the ticket, go make a sandwich for 14 minutes and then come back and respond in a 15 minute, be like, well, it doesn't matter. I have 15 minutes to do whatever I want before I respond. Or I'm not going to sit there and wait 30 minutes to fix it if I can fix it right away, right? I'm just going to go do work, right? No one actually does that. And I'm also, I look at the opposite side. Let's assume that something happens and it takes me longer than 30 minutes to fix it. What are we going to do at that point? Right? Are we going to fire me? Right? Like, oh, it took the 130 minutes to fix it. I guess you're fired. I mean, is that how we operate? And it's not. Right now, we utilize those things to understand is there, bigger problems and those kind of things. And we still get that out of this other method. But it's not around some arbitrary number that even when you break it, you don't really do much action other than say, hey, we broke SLA. And again, this is more focused on internal support, right? You're not going to do anything about it of any real consequence other than things like problem management or whatever. But that's not, SLAs aren't necessarily needed to even do those kind of things. So the idea, again, is to take a holistic approach of all the services that you provide to all the employees across your company and your organization. And the way that starts is we have to understand that our services don't mean the same to everyone, right? Let's take something like email. Everybody in your organization probably has email, right? But email doesn't mean the same to everyone. Email to a sales team that emails customers quotes every day that may be time sensitive is much more important than email to your accounting team who's emailing a report down the hall, to someone else in accounting, right? So if you think about what email means, it's not the same. So if you designed your services or your SLAs around email without taking into account who's using it, how important it is to them, how much it means to their day-to-day, how much it means to them being able to generate revenue or, stay within compliance or whatever the case may be, we're sort of built it in a vacuum, right? So we have to understand that everybody in your company uses services at different levels, or they mean different things to them, right? And again, I just use email because it's common and easy to think about. Again, a priority for one service doesn't mean it's a priority for someone else. So when we build our service catalog, which most of you have, and if you don't, that's okay. One easy thing to do is just go look on people's computers and see what you've installed on their PC, what other services they have wrapped around it, such as, phones, different things like that, and say, okay, well, what is it that I give all these different departments, right? And list all of that out. The next thing we're going to do is we want to rank them, but you don't know how, right? The good news is you can go figure it out. So a lot of IT, and again, even with SLAs, and it's starting to get better where we talk about co-creating value and working with other departments and aligning. But to me, I tell you, go out into the wild, right? Get out there, go talk to the people who you provide services to. And we've built these surveys that look something similar to this. And it's basically, and I've cut them down to 4, but you can imagine there's usually 20 or so per different team. And so I find different teams throughout the entire organization and we go talk to them. Hey, we give you guys email. And if you have a large application like your ERP, break up the functions of your ERP so you can understand what specific functions people may use, such as inventory versus sales versus, whatever else. Inside those apps. Break it up so you have enough granularity. You don't want to get too granular, but enough granularity to understand that there's different functions. List them all and then go sit with them. And you can ask questions like, hey, if this went down, how bad is that for you? They'd be like, oh, that's real bad. Or they might say, well, it's an inconvenience, but it doesn't kill me. It doesn't stop me from doing my work, right? Or most of my work. And so what you'll end up doing is learning from them and let them, as a department manager, as a team lead, people in their team, let them give you the feedback on how they view the vitality of these services, right? How bad do they need them? What do they mean to their day-to-day? Is there times consideration? So in this case, the questions we ask, one, we let them stack rank them and it's up to them. Time consideration is, are there any moments such as the end of month, end of day, where a certain application might bubble to the top because it's very important for a small period of time, but that maybe not so important at other times, right? You'll need to understand that. Understand if this application lends to generating revenue. Now, if you're a nonprofit, or I used to work at a veterinary hospital, managing IT for for about 13,000 vets. Um, we didn't care about revenue. We cared about outcome of the pets, right? So in our case, we changed this from generates revenue. We changed this to affects pet care and healthcare, right? So you could think about, machines that maybe run, anesthesia for surgery, right? Those were our highest priority issues, highest priority services, right? Not things that made us money. But in typical fashion, you could think around generates revenue. Secondly, does it interact or interface with our customers? And I don't mean customers like internal people. I will never in my life call those people a customer. The customer is the people who pay our company for whatever service we provide, right? Is it customer facing? It is interdepartmental, right? Or other departments working, with this department by using this application, or other departments expecting some type of handoff or signal from this application, or is it something that only that team uses, right? So this lets you rank everything. And then you go talk to the different teams and figure out what they say about their services, right? And they'll tell you. It's fun. You'll have these great conversations. You'll learn a lot. You'll realize, man, I thought this was really important to you guys. You realize not so much, and vice versa, right? So then you take all of them and you put them all together. And so I just sort of pulled out two, and again, I just gave you two tiny little snippets of a survey, and then you put them together. So as you can see, we have sales, our ERP, that's number one, because they got to get quotes out to the customers. Phones, if the sales guys and women can't be on the phone, we got a problem, email, and then so on. But then you can see the shipping team, their inventory ERP is outranking some other things in sales. So it's not necessarily that this one application always wins. It's this one application for this department might be really high, where another application for another department might slide in, and then maybe that department comes back and it has another rank, right? So you try to rank all these out and then continue to meet with those teams. And as you have teams that have a lot of blend, right, in their stack, and let's say here you have shipping and sales, bring sales and shipping together and be like, hey guys, this is kind of what we're looking at, right? Does everybody agree? And you can kind of get some level of agreement. And if there's a little bit of, I think this is higher, that's higher, that's okay. It gets close enough. Okay. The next thing we want to do is we want to create scores. So what we do is we take our stack rank, and then we understand, and in a lot of these systems, you think like category, subcategory item, or some way to classify tickets. And the way we classify tickets is it tells the story of the ticket from the user's perspective or from the business perspective, not from IT's perspective. Okay. I see a lot of people create tickets that say like server issue versus printer issue, right? If someone can't print, they're like, oh, it was a server problem. They had to restart the spooler. It's a printer issue. Oh, it was a printer jam, or a network issue. Okay. The printer wasn't on the network. Well, we don't build our tickets to tell that story. Our tickets just simply say the guy couldn't print. He doesn't care, by the way. The impact of the business is the same. If you can't print, he can't print. Doesn't matter if it's a server issue, printer issue, hardware issue, network, print, can't do it. Impact is the same, right? So we tell the story of the ticket on the front end, because first off, we don't even know what the problem is when we get it, like what the root cause is when we get it. So it'd be irresponsible for us to try to assume that up front. But we just want to understand all those things. And as you build that out, then you look at the third level, which is things like errors, performance issues, access issue, data update, something's wrong with the data, right? Something's wrong with the application as far as, validity of the data, question or help, like, hey, I don't know how to do this, don't know how to do that. And list all of the different things that can sort of go wrong with an application, right? And then talk to them again and score them out. Now, when you score them, you want the highest score to be the worst problem, right? Now, in addition to that, in your ticketing system, build a score multiplier to understand the scope. So if it's just hitting one employee, just take the score as it is. If that issue is affecting an entire team, a department, what we did was 3x. Now, you guys can kind of play with this on your own and figure out what works. But what we did was a 3x times that score. And if it hit the entire organization, let's say, Microsoft 365 was down for the whole company, obviously that's a huge issue. We did a 5x multiplier for that score. And what we're going to end up doing is prioritizing around the scores. So you prioritize the highest scores first, right? And so we built our dashboards internally to start with to show all of the open tickets and their score, right? And we called all of our high score tickets out, and we had dashboards that lit up stuff. Said, okay, here's a big issue. One, if we had anything that was multiplied by 3 or by 5, we knew right away because we had a major issue to worry about. And it's one of the things I use as my at a glance. I used to have a dashboard we called our at a glance dashboard. So we would just look at it, and in 10 seconds, I could tell if I need to go run down something or go work on something or figure it out or help someone, right? But then we looked at all of our tickets, regardless of when they came in. We didn't do first come, first serve or anything like that. We found that we worked on the highest tickets first, yielded the best results for the company because that's what everyone told us was important to them, right? And when tickets get a little bit older, let's say a ticket might last 2 or 3 hours before they get the response they want. We made these dashboards public, right? Even to everyone in the world, so that when they said, I opened a ticket and I didn't get a response, well, they know we talked to them. They know there's other tickets that are higher priority that they already agreed to, right? And know that we put TVs in all of the different departments with all of their dashboards. So they could see, okay, I see all the tickets that affect my applications. Then I can see how many tickets are ahead of me. And I agree. Maybe I can't email Susan down the hall and I'm upset about it, but the guys don't have, the sales guys, their phones are down. Forget me. Please go work on that, right? And so everyone started to come together and realize, what we were working on. Now, we always gave people an out, right? We gave you a way to escalate, to say, listen, I understand you got other high priority tickets or high score tickets out there. This is one that is time sensitive because of XYZ compliance. Let's say we have a quarterly, shareholder meeting, and I got to get this report out. So things like that. Obviously, we allowed people to jump the line, right, and escalate if they needed to, which I don't like the word escalate, but we allowed them to say, hey, I need this. But for the most part, we worked on this, and through transparency with everyone in the organization and ourselves, we were able to really knock out those highest priority tickets. And again, it didn't matter based on SLA or first come, first serve or anything like that. We just simply worked through this. Now, I've got this. I've tried to make it a little bit blurry. This is a dashboard I used a while back. But what we created from this is what we call hit rates. This is where it gets real juicy. Okay. So we created 2 definitions, our hit roll 3, our hit rate, which is the score of the ticket, right? So you have some ticket, let's call it the sales ERP, or the ERP and sales function. And for our sales team, again, where it comes from is important. It's, which department is reporting the issue is important. So we take all of that comes up with the score. And that's our hit rate per hour. Now we just use hours because hours is easy to think about. Our expected hit is the average time to resolution times the score. So if a particular ticket lasts 30 minutes and the score is 50, then your expected hit is 25 points, right? So we know, okay, these tickets cost us 25 points, right? Because it's half of 50, right? Or half hour. So the next thing we looked at was our predicted hits. So we looked at our metrics and said, well, what do I expect based on the last 3 months? What do I expect next month's tickets to be? And so we were able to predict what we think a particular service was going to cost us in points. So how many tickets would come in and how many hours they would live based on their average, right? And that would give us our predicted hit. So then we found out, and we let our technicians, we even allowed them to poach each other's tickets as long as it wasn't started past a certain point, because I wanted everybody grabbing the highest priority ticket, regardless who was assigned to you or not. If the guy hasn't already started working through to a certain point, go take it and work it because it's the most important thing to our business, right? So what we did was we started to score our technicians by any time they were able to beat the average. So if, let's say someone has, again, a ticket whose expected hit rate is 25 points because it's a 50 score, It lasts 30 minutes on average over the past 3 months. And someone comes in and knocks it out in, 5 minutes, right? However many, and I can't do the math right now, but however many points that person saved, it gets put into their score, right? So they're constantly going and hunting and cherry picking. And it sounds like, oh, why do I want them hunting tickets? Yeah, I want them hunting the high priority tickets that hurt the business the most, right? So they're going out and are hunting and cherry picking and picking off all of the high score tickets. And they're constantly sort of fighting for those tickets to drive them to a certain point of contact, which is basically when I said, okay, if they've taken to a certain level of contact, you can't steal it anymore. It's sort of locked. It's theirs, right? Wait for the next one. And they're constantly going in and grabbing all of those tickets, right? In addition to that, in order to not incentivize, hey, I just want as many tickets as I can, because that really means you have that many problems in the field. In order to incentivize things like problem management, which sort of leads to this, and long-term solutions, we take the unrealized points of our predicted hit, which was going to happen over this month, of those tickets that you did the previous month. Especially, we used to give these guys a little checkbox so they could click long-term solution, right? If they think they finally fixed something that's like long term, or come up with a new process that does it better, we let them click this little box. And then the tickets that didn't exist the next month, they got all those points for. And so what happens was you're starting to drive down, and you actually make more points by preventing tickets than you do just by solving them quickly. So it got guys into thinking, you know what? If I can figure out a way to make this process better, have a quicker solution, or make it such as this ticket doesn't exist at all in the future because I've given you a long-term solution, right? I've gotten even more points. And right. So we started to build all of that stuff. Now, conversely, as I mentioned with the SLA earlier, sometimes we lose, right? Sometimes we go past the time. Well, in those cases, I don't penalize the guys. I turn it and take the blame, if you will, for those points, and I apply it to the service. That's our service fault. And so what we do at the end of the month is we also take a look at what did all of the different services we provide, what were the hit scores that we all took, all the hits we took based on these services. And we found certain services that were bubbling to the top. Two things would happen. One, we'd start some problem management around that, right? Two, we'd go to our engineering departments and say, hey, you engineers that you're working all this cool stuff. Yeah, I don't know what you're working on, but you should be working on this because this is what's killing us, right? And so we started to drive a lot of our engineering work, development work on fixing larger issues because we could tell you what was actually killing us. And a lot of times those guys are like, oh, that application's not bad. It works great. We talked to a couple departments that use it, and they don't have any issues. Yeah, well, the department that relies on it the most, or that generates the most revenue with it, you don't realize that, but when they have an issue, this is what it's doing to them. So you can't just think of it again in a vacuum. So what we've created is a lot of these gamification kind of concepts. Problem management sort of spawns out of it. Change management sort of spawns out of it because we're able to lend to our change management. Hey, this is what the hits. And then we see those change and we implement a change, a new update, different server stack, whatever the case may be. We also look at the hits that were been taken and figure out, did we get some significant improvement there? Did it get worse? What do we have to do? What bugs that came out with the change, or the new release are affecting us? And we're able to trend and understand how we're operating as a team. And one of the things we would look at as a typical metric would be at any given moment, and I used to do this just randomly throughout the day, we would take 10 random samples throughout the day. What is the current hit existing right now, which is basically all of the open tickets and their hit scores, right? And you take snapshots throughout the day, random snapshots, average those out, and you can figure out on a regular basis how many people are actually out there waiting for us to help them and how bad is it, right? And so you want to see those trends obviously go down. And doesn't always go down. Sometimes it pops up and you can relate it back again to a change, new application, training situations, whatever the case may be. But you can see what's going on with your business as far as the technology that you're providing to them. So it's a different way to do it than, the typical SLA. As you can see in here, I'm not looking at SLAs. I don't care about first call resolution. First call resolution, by the way, is fun, but it doesn't really matter. My business doesn't care. If I tell my customers, hey, we're able to ship the products to you, because when I called my help desk, they answered the question before I hung up the phone. Like, okay, that's fun. But does it really matter if I solve the problem? Does it matter if it's on a phone call or two phone calls, right? If I solve it, faster, better, it doesn't really matter, right? It's just a fun experience rate, right? XLAs, there's a little bit to that because it's the experience of how I'm working with other people, and I think there's a lot of value and juiciness in interaction with humans. I think there's some real value there. When we look at some of these things, obviously, there's no such thing as a survey for us. Um, Cost per ticket. Theoretically, I would want that to be infinite because I would want 0 tickets in the queue. So divide by 0. I know it's not really infinity, but I hope my guys don't work at any tickets, right? I hope that all of their expected hit scores are 0 and their predicted hit scores are 1,000,000, which means they didn't work on any tickets and my cost per ticket's really high. You'd be like, wow, you guys are terrible. Like, I guess so. We just don't have any problems. Good for us, huh? So those are the kind of things that we've sort of taken a different approach on. I can't show too much of these other dashboards. Some of it's, somewhat proprietary. But there's a few more that we've done, and we've done some things to rank and those kind of things. In addition, like I mentioned earlier, one of the things that we found was very useful is we put TVs in all the departments. And then we showed them all the applications that matter to them, the status of those applications, and then all the tickets that their department has, and then another cross section of all the tickets that we have in general across the entire organization and all of those ranks. And we had a ticker at the bottom of the screen that was just talking about things like updates, changes that would come in, maintenance windows. And the ticker would also come across any announcements, like so if there was a major outage or issue. So if anytime there was a ticket or an issue, they could just look at the TV and say, okay, well, IT already knows because I see it coming across the screen. They know this is a down or this is an outage. ETA is, 30 minutes to resolution. I don't have to call and panic. I don't have to do anything. I see what's going on. But they would also see any other tickets from other departments that might be outranking them. And they already knew why. They already agreed to it, right? With the other department in the room. And if they needed to bubble it up, they could, right? So being able to give them transparency was really big. Being able to let them weigh in on what's important was really big. And we constantly went back every year and reallocated those things. Or if we delivered a new service, we said, okay, let's take the survey again and stick it where it goes and figure out where it ranks, right? And so we did that. And again, from our mathematics standpoint around this stuff, we did about a 3-month window to figure out what our average scores was because we were always beating and pushing those averages down because tickets lived less and less and less time. So we'd have to recalibrate about every 3 months we did that. So that's kind of what we did. Worked really well for us. My teams loved it. My employees, within the company that we supported, they loved it. They completely understood every time they opened a ticket. They knew what the priorities were. They knew what the score was most of the time, even before they opened a ticket, because they got used to it, right? So they knew everything when they communicated with us. It was a much better conversation. And again, the teams loved it. They were always competing. They were always going after those tickets, and it was fun. You'd see guys kind of, getting on each other like, oh man, there was a 30-point ticket out there and Scott got it. I was just clicking it. He got it. All right, I'm gonna get the next one. And maybe you go get one that's a 20 and a 10 and try to add up or whatever. So it really motivated people. It was a lot of fun. We had a lot of fun with it. We didn't play in different kind of games with the scores and things like that, and different events around holidays and stuff. But it was a lot of fun. Kept everyone motivated, kept everyone, eyes on the ball. And then the business itself, everyone knew what we were doing and how we did it. So they would participate in it as well and those kind of things. So it was a lot of fun. It made work fun. And still, we were working on the things that really mattered to the company and mattered to the business. So
Wow.
hopefully that's close to 20 minutes. I tried to keep it close.
No,
I don't
you
know
did
where I landed.
so well. Woohoo!
So, any questions?
Yeah, there's a few that were coming up. So I just thought what I'll do is I'm just going to start at the bottom of the chat and actually work my way backwards. And of course, the Baron, my other host, is always good at picking up some of these other things. But Stacey, you had a really good question here that I think is pretty good because it is a different approach. Transparency, yes.
Mm.
But as you were coming up with this, because you're already engaging with them up front about like what's important to them, the question here is, have you found it's hard for the business to understand this style of approach that you're using to it, on how those tickets are being prioritized? And, because some businesses get focused on that fixed on first. So,
Hmm. Yeah. Well, sometimes, first off, I've never had anyone say, I don't understand it. You have to be good at communicating. You just like, hey, we're just going to ask you a survey. We would go in and present what we're trying to do. And we always made it feel like, I'm here to help you. Tell me what's important to you, right?
mhm,
I think this is important to you. Is it? No, not that much. Oh, okay, great. You're the boss, right? You tell me what you think. And so, because it was driven out of their opinion and they were giving us the feedback, and a lot of times, you may have to do this because, like, accounting, for instance, is a large department. It's not just accounting. You have AR, AP, cash application, invoicing. You have so much stuff, right? You kind of have to talk to a few different people because you might say, well, this isn't important to anybody in AP, but the guys in AR are dying without this, right? So you do have to have a little bit of cross section of some of these departments. You can't get super high. Um, but we found that when they were able to give us feedback and we told them, hey, this is how we're going to work on stuff for you. Tell us what's important. Um, it worked out really well. People were very happy. As far as understanding it, we tried to keep it very simple. If this is down, how bad is it? If this is slow, how bad is it? If this works, but some of this is wrong or that's wrong, how bad is it? Because you can figure out just from your own history what kind of things can go wrong with a particular application or service, right?
yeah.
And so you just ask them of those things, what is it?
And I think, like Adrian, to your point as well, workaround and quick principles does still stand. Like, get me up and running ASAP. I don't care how you do it, just get me working again. And there's also, too, like in Australia, I know too, but there are a lot of places that are still so cooked up on having that fixed on first or first contact percentage. Um, how did you actually switch that in the reporting for them? Because you said you do these calculations like one times it's an employee customer, five times it's the business sort of thing. Did you
Mhm.
actually show them how you calculated as well? Like, did you do a mini exec session and said, hey,
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Full transparency. And we showed them, hey, this is how we've scored it. This is what the feedback you've given us. This is how we've scored it. This is about where your depart. You'll find out that departments sort of beat other departments in general, not always, but you'll sort of figure that out. And one of my favorite to show uh, is the executive level because you'll see the CEO's email, which everyone thinks is the highest party ticket in the world. CEO is going to be like, please don't worry about my email if my guys aren't out there generating revenue, right? And so they'll concede. And I utilize that example a lot to be like, hey, look, this is, Simone, she's the CEO. She said she's down here. And you guys and you guys and these guys over here, they're up here based on these applications because it's more important than the business, right? So it sort of strips the emotion out of it. And if I can show an example of our leader making that concession, everyone else is like, yeah, you're right. That's important. This is important, and so on. So it gets a lot of that buy-in. And
yeah,
so people, again, we just didn't care about things like first call resolution. Okay, it's great. I'm not against it. I'm not like, no, please hang up and call them back and before you tell them the answer, right? We're not ridiculous, but it wasn't something we chased because
yeah,
you ended up doing things like, well, I'm going to stay on the phone to solve this problem, even though a big flashing high score red ticket just popped in the door, right? And I'm going to be like, let me call you right back. Hey, major issue. What do you got? I'm an expert at that app. Let me solve this for you, right? Because that's a high score ticket. I'll call this person with their right clicking mouse button sticking later, right? When I've got a major application down or whatever it is, right? Or a high score ticket. I didn't, and again, you don't have to. You might just hurry up and fix that, right? I levied up to them to make the decision, but I didn't chase things like that because I didn't care. because who cares, right? We're trying to make money, or we're trying to save animals' lives, or we're trying to do whatever our mission is. Our mission is not to have our help desk solve tickets within one phone call.
Mhm.
Those are just indicators, right? And I'll tell you a story about indicators. I don't really like them. I use them sometimes because they inform something, but there's a canary in a coal mine, right? And I need to make sure the canary is singing so that I know the coal miners are alive. The canary is my indicator, right? Well, if I start focusing on the indicator so much, before you know it, the canary is going to have his own dedicated vet, house, special diet, and all this stuff. And I'm taking care of the canary, and the coal miners are dead. They down there dead. They making coal. They ain't doing nothing. But don't worry. This canary is beautiful. Look at his cage. It's acrylic. It's beautiful. And I feed him the best bird seed this canary has ever seen. Well, that's
Artificial
what
lung,
happens.
artificial heart, everything.
Yeah, this canary is amazing, right? Well, yeah, but that's my indicator. You guys are chasing indicators. I'm chasing the results, right? And so just let indicators inform you. Don't chase them. Don't try to modify an indicator. If as soon as you start to try to modify an indicator, you've diverted from the goal. Let the indicator fall where it is.
Oh, I love
Chase the
that. I've
goal.
so often said to my analysts in the analyst course, if your team leader gets crazy about, oh my God, look at the queue, it's going nuts, is like, please give them a Valium and tell them to take a lie down
Yeah.
and we'll get on with the rest of it. Because I find most of the time, the manager or the TL, or, it might be one person in the business, is taking a metric or one or two metrics only out of context. They're actually not seeing the whole story. And I think
Yep.
what you're showing there by having that is you see the full flow, not just one piece of the flow.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you did a great job talking. Like this is how good gamification programs work is you have to it can't be about IT. It can't be about KPIs. You literally have to design it with the business, otherwise you're not aligned to the business goals. We have an awesome question from Rob LaRoche, which I want answered as well. With this method, how do you then also prioritize your other work beyond break fix, beyond the problem management, which I love that relationship. Thank you for pointing that out. But like how do you prioritize that with project work? How do you prioritize that with change management and knowledge management?
Sure. Um, so service requests is obviously a piece of this that we didn't really talk about. That you have to prioritize, right? 'Cause some people need laptops, people need access to applications, people need accounts created, people, this stuff still exists, right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Um, so we separated incidents from service requests. And the way we did it was very simple. I don't know if this is the real way to do it, but we just said if it's something someone could do yesterday and they can't do today, that's an incident.
Yep.
If it's something they can't do today, but they want to be able to do tomorrow, that's a service request. That's simple, right?
Yep.
And so we built some parties around that. But I'll tell you, if there's enough tickets in the queue, whether it's those scores are high enough where I feel like they're impacting the business, and we had actually found out some sweet spots. And over time, we found break points where certain things would happen as it would tie out to our total revenue and our total costs and total profitability per month. We found there were certain break points of those daily scores or snapshot scores that was affecting the business. Right. And so we'd start to aim around that. And so when we hit certain ceilings or went under these certain ceilings, I might free up guys to go work on other stuff. But if there were issues, there were issues.
Mm-hmm.
That was the priority, right? Project work, I'm sorry, we don't have enough time to do project work. We still have issues. Now, if we can get enough issues drawn down to where it's zero or really low, then I can free up guys to do project work, right? And so you may have a staffing question there. You may have a process question. You may have a tools question, right? There's some other things you can do to help, solve tickets faster, have less tickets, have more people attacking those tickets and so on. But as far as those other things, the truth is they're not priorities over all of these things that are affecting the business. But as you do this, you'll start to learn other things. Again, we were able to tie our overall scores of our hits that we took over a month and correlate that to revenue targets
Mhm.
with the business. And you'll start to see over time, it takes a while to do this, but you'll start to see those moments where, hey, if we're under, 2050, hits per month, our revenue takes, a big jump. right? Because we have so much level of productivity out in the field, right? Or whatever the case may be. So we're able to do that and draw out a lot of really cool insights. And
Well, I've
since
got
we
a
had it all
simple
by
question.
department, we could even look at, did a department take a certain number of hits versus another department taking a certain hits, and what's going on there, right?
Yeah. I've just got, how in the hell did you afford screens for every area of the business?
They're cheap now. You can go to
We
Costco
just
and get a
bought them. Yeah, I don't know.
50
We
inch for
just
like $300.
Jean-Luc, you have your hand up.
Yeah, just wanted to mention, according to Matt's question to Simon, about the different projects and all that, and this is where different level of technical support comes in, where you got level 1, level 2, level 3, whereas your level 1s, level 2s concentrate specifically on your daily tickets, and your level 3s concentrate on the overall problems, so that they open the projects and work on the, okay, we know this issue causes, uh, I don't know, 10 tickets a week. Well, if we cleared that issue completely, well, there's 10 tickets per week that's
yep.
gone.
So we
They'll
one of the
never come
things,
back.
yep. One of the things we also did, and this is maybe a little bit different for us, but we got rid of our tiers. So we didn't have level 1, level 2, level 3. We just had everybody work on what you can work on. And people could identify tickets and figure out if they could work on it. They had to hand it off, they could hand it off. They had to get help, they would get help. Because you're going to have some people, the truth is you have a spectrum, right, of experience and knowledge and competency, right? Entry level guys are still figuring it out, still learning some things, right? There's nothing wrong with that, but we let them go. We let them navigate the whole world, right? I don't, I generally, so there's a couple things I'll add to this. We got rid of the word escalate in our world, because escalate means go up. And we got rid of it because we got rid of tiers, because you had level 1, level 2, level 3. We got rid of all that vocabulary because it creates a hierarchy. And so if I go to level 3, like that guy's above me, and I'm level 3 master, I'm unworthy, please help me with my ticket. Or engineers who now could have an attitude about they're better than me because I'm help desk and they're a level 3 engineer. We got rid of escalation. We got rid of anything that put anyone higher than anyone else. We leveled it out, and we called it transferring tickets. And so you would transfer a ticket, and we had a transfer reason. Like, why am I transferring this? 1, I don't have access to fix it. 2, I don't know how to fix it. 3, hey, I know how, but I need some help with it, whatever, right? And so we started to watch our transfer reasons and figure out, okay, the help desk guys are transferring these tickets to the engineers or whatever it is, on a high frequency. Why are they transferring? Because they don't have access? Okay, well, let's see if it's appropriate to give them access, right? And train them. Is it? Nah, maybe not. Impact of an error is significant. Sorry, you're gonna have to keep transferring them, right? And the engineers started to learn, well, I know why I'm taking this because I've already told them they don't have access to do this because of the, impact or whatever, right? And so you created a lot of that back and forth where it was much more level. And again, because of gamification, and people always, and if there's a big ticket that they didn't know how to solve, they'd go want to learn how to solve it, right? Because they wanted those points the next time a ticket came in. And those predicted hits, which is the tickets we're getting rid of, those long-term solutions, problem management, whatever, they got a lot of points for those. So that's where they were looking at doing. So as far as that stuff, we didn't really level it. We tried to, create a flat organization because a team's a team. And we even try to use our vocabulary and our metrics and things that we talked about and how we operated to eliminate any type of hierarchy or tiers or things like that.